Well, as you may remember from my previous video making this board, I had a important revelation, and that when you're doing flight boards, there's a pretty good possibility somebody will stick it in the dishwasher, and that's what happens to the inlay. So we're going to try something different. I got the board back from a customer, and I'm going to pull it up. Started to do that. And then we're going to go ahead and try and fill it with a black resin. And then with that resin in place, that should be able to, should still be able to draw on that. So get the same look and feel. You know, for that matter, it raises the value of it a little bit. So that's the next steps. Get this cleaned up, and then we're going to put some black resin in there. As you saw, we had the damage for our flight board. We got it all cleaned out, pulled out that old inlay that we were using for that was whiteboard and chalkboard, and instead we're going to put in some black resin. So we're going to try that out, and then we're going to finish planing down the back and kind of try and remove some of that warpage that we have from the dishwasher. Okay, so I measured this out. This is 1 inch by 10.5 by 0.15. All right, so less than 1/4 of an inch. We're going to be using Total Boat tabletop epoxy, easy for me to say, and use that to fill this in. The reason we're using that is because we can go up to 1/4 inch on it. If we're going any deeper than that, we would need to use a deep pour epoxy versus that tabletop. And in this case, I think we're going to be okay. We'll find out. And as always, read your directions carefully. Okay, so we're going to do, in this case, I did the measurements. I need 30 milliliters. So I got these little silicone cups, kind of cool. So since we're doing 30 millimeters, I'm going to add 15 of one, and then we'll add 15 of the other, and that will, and then mix them in. And we'll set our timer. We're going to mix for 4 minutes. There we go. About 1 more minute. I'm trying to do this in such a way that hopefully my epoxy gets the right mix. Totally should have done this before I got started mixing. So, learn your lesson from me. Get your tapes, you gotta get your surface ready before you start mixing. All right, here goes the fun part. And since this is a tabletop resin, it is a self-leveling resin. I'll pour a little bit in there, kind of let it see where it's going to end up. We'll swirl it in a little bit, push it up against the edges, because I don't want to end up over on this, or if over, not very far over. Now, because this is self-leveling, the table is generally level, but I want to make sure. Nope, we definitely, oh yeah, because of this warpage, and I can see it in it. So Again, something I should have done before we got started. Nope, we're looking better left to right. But I still have a whole bunch of bubbles in there. Might have to bring out the torch and coax them out. Definitely do see the resin leveling. It's moving. You may not be able to see it on the camera, but it is moving. All right, well, give that a little bit of time to set up. Okay, here we go. Here's how we're going to remove some of these bubbles. I'm not using a torch, but I'm using a heat gun. It's definitely working. It's almost there. It's nice and black. I do still have some bubbles though. Resin heats up on its own too. I don't want to heat it up too much. I think that's going to be pretty good. Now we just got to wait for it to cure. Okay, looks like we are done repairing our flight board. So we've pulled that inlay out, replaced it with black resin. And you know what? This is going to be much better going forward. This will allow it to be nearly waterproof. Still wouldn't put it in a high temp hot water situation because the wood could still eventually warp. But what you can do with it this way is you can absolutely run that underwater, give it a wipe off, and you'll be good to go. So, hey, sometimes people do things you don't expect. And as a builder, you know, I should be the one thinking of all of those things. So I actually appreciate that this was figured out and brought to my attention. So now I can make everything better going forward. Let's test it, make sure that it works well. Maybe some Johnny Walker, some Jim Beam, and some Whistle Pig. And well, as you can tell, definitely writes well. Let's make sure it erases well. Oh yeah, very nice, very easy, very clean. So I think we're in good shape. The other thing we added was pads onto the back that will give it just a little bit of additional height, as well as ensure that water doesn't or moisture doesn't seep underneath and just sit on it. So with that, I think I'm ready to go have a drink, go see my friends over at Kenny Fort. You'll have a great one.